In terms of trying to maneuver through this minefield of paranormal phenomenon, I've speculated that it's important for people to try to look at their own experience and figure out if it was a natural, energetic phenomenon, or if it was some sort of, if there was some sort of a government or Masonic or whatever sort of influence on it. It seems to me it's important to try to look at your own situation and see and break the two, try to separate the two out. Do you think that's important?
Well, the thing that works against all these conspiracy theories is that the government is very stupid. It's not capable of conspiracy. They try conspiracies against each other, but they're very stupid all the time. Most governments consist either of madmen, like Adolf Hitler and company, or they consist of small-town lawyers who have suddenly talked their way into a big position and handling billions of dollars, and they can't even handle their own bank account. And there are other things at work here that we don't understand. That somebody runs everything, and we don't know who it is. That's what it amounts to. You look at the economic situation very closely, and the oil situation and all. There's somebody running this thing and had planned it for a long time, and we don't know who they are. They're sitting on a mountaintop somewhere or in a penthouse somewhere and keeping a very low profile. And when they die, they don't even get an obituary. And these are the people we really have to think about and go after. But George Bush spends a lot of his time on his ranch, and we have the Arabian countries run by very wealthy men who have no real interest in running countries. They just want to run themselves and run their business, the oil business or whatever they're running. There's got to be some guy out there like a Howard Hughes type who's really a visionary and has knowledge of what he's doing and how he's doing it. And we've never tried to interpret the actions of this man. For a while I did think it was Howard Hughes, because he fitted into all of the patterns. He was a recluse, he was a nut, he was filthy rich, and he was capable of almost anything. And he got them, when he moved to Las Vegas, he got them to stop the atomic bombs in Nevada, the testing of atomic bombs. And not many men had the power to do that. And so he, nobody ever really found out where all of his money went. He did contribute heavily to the CIA, and there must be people in the CIA who are operating on their own.
Well, I heard this crazy theory that he was kidnapped by Onassis and held on an island for 20 years on heroin.
I never heard that one.
And that Onassis appropriated all of that money. It's called the Gemstone File.
Oh, well, yeah. That was pretty much fiction.
Yeah. I wanted to focus a bit on, well, with my own situation, I feel as if it's a difficult, if you're a witness, if you start off meeting this phenomenon as a witness, you have an experience or two, and then you decide to become a researcher and start looking at other cases, trying to figure it out, that you run into problems with people like cryptozoologists who think that if you're a witness that somehow your credibility goes down. And I remember I was talking to you the other day, and you'd made a statement that you started off as a ridiculous. I think you used the word ridiculous. You'd started off as a ridiculous figure, so therefore there was no that issue of trying to lower your credibility was sort of mute.
I spent years of my life writing jokes for television. I wrote Merv Griffin's ad-libs at one point.
I didn't know that.
There are a lot of people writing ad-libs. You see these comedians on television, you'd think they're very funny people. They aren't. They got 10 guys behind the scenes writing jokes for them. Regis Philbin, when he had his show, You Want to Be a Millionaire, Regis was sitting in front of a television set, and they had 3 or 4 guys sitting backstage, and every situation that came up, these guys were crack humorists, and they would immediately type in a joke, and Regis would read it off the TV screen, and everybody would say, "Oh, that Regis is really fast-witted and funny." Well, the guys who were fast-witted and funny were sitting backstage earning $10,000 a minute, or whatever. And Jay Leno, if you watch on Fridays on Jay Leno's show, they run the crawl on Fridays, and he has like 20 writers writing all of his monologues and all of his jokes. And Johnny Carson used to have a script with him on stage, and you'd see him shuffling papers, and if you were an outsider, you said, "What the hell are those papers?" And what they were the scripts for. He had jokes for all the visitors that came on. The writers had all prepared jokes ahead of time, and then there would be subjects that the people didn't want to discuss. That would be listed there. Don't ask about his former marriage, and so Carson would follow the instructions.
If people knew this, they'd have more appreciation for this kind of cinema, where, you're having to answer questions. There's no cue cards. There's no nothing like that going on. But
I wrote cue cards too, and all the stuff that went in cue cards.
Have you talked much about your childhood? Because I remember reading that you had some kind of a paranormal experience as a child. I think some lights in your room.
Around the age of 12, I was living in an old farmhouse upstairs. Everybody else was sleeping downstairs, and there came a knocking on the wall. And at first I thought it was squirrels in the attic or something, and I did my scientific investigation of the whole house, couldn't find anything. This went on for several weeks. Couldn't find any explanation with these knockings. And then I learned that you could communicate with them, just like the Fox sisters learned. Knock 3 times for this and 2 times for that. And so as a 12-year-old, I didn't have many interesting questions to ask. Well, I was communicating with this thing that was knocking in the wall. And this drove me to the public library to find any books I could on psychic phenomena. They only had about 3. And, up until the 60s, all of this stuff was really taboo. You don't realize it now how taboo it was. It was almost illegal. They'd almost put you in jail for getting into psychic phenomena, parapsychology. And it was only, there'd been like 5 new ages, and each new age has brought us to another level. And then the people grow up and forget about it, and then a few years pass, 10 years pass, and somebody like Shirley MacLaine starts up again. And it's a phenomenon in itself. It's like there's a timetable, and every generation is elevated a little bit. And until, did you ever read Childhood's End? Because I'm always quoting that. It's a Arthur C. Clarke science fiction book, and that's basically his story, was that eventually we evolve into something else. We evolve into a spiritual thing. And then we don't need all of this other stuff, the trappings that go with being human beings. We abandon that and just become spiritual beings.